I learned early that being the youngest in the Anderson family meant being invisible. While my sister Victoria climbed the corporate ladder at Anderson Technologies, the family business our grandfather founded, I was the one who answered phones at the reception desk. 29 years old with an MBA from Stanford, and my own family introduced me as the girl at the front desk. Emma handles our phones, Mom would say at charity galas, her tone apologetic. She's still figuring out her career path. Victoria, 34 and director of marketing, would smile and add, not everyone is cut out for leadership positions. Emma's found her comfort zone. I'd smile back and change the subject. They had no idea I'd been attending evening executive board meetings for the past 18 months, working directly with the senior partners who were orchestrating a carefully planned leadership transition. My receptionist job was a temporary cover while I learned every department from the ground up, just as our late grandfather had specified in his succession plan. The plan he'd shared with me privately before his death. The plan that made me chairman-elect of Anderson Technologies board, pending the official announcement at today's quarterly meeting. But my family didn't know that yet. The tension had been building for months. Victoria had been positioning herself for a promotion to vice president, leveraging our family name and her 8 years with the company. She'd started treating me worse than usual, as if my presence at reception somehow diminished her executive image. Can't you at least dress more professionally? She'd hissed at me last week in the lobby. You make the whole family look bad when clients see you at that desk. I was wearing a tailored navy suit that cost more than her monthly car payment, but I just nodded. I'll keep that in mind. Today's quarterly company meeting was supposed to be Victoria's moment. She'd prepared an elaborate presentation about her marketing initiatives, invited extended family members, and even reserved the executive conference room for a celebration lunch afterward. She'd been dropping hints for weeks about big news and career milestones. She had no idea the board was planning to announce something much bigger. I arrived at the office at 7:30 as usual, settling into my reception desk with my coffee. The building was mostly empty this early, just security and the cleaning crew finishing their rounds. I reviewed my notes for the board meeting scheduled for 11. The real meeting, not the company-wide presentation Victoria had planned for 10. You're here early, Victoria's voice cut through the quiet lobby at 8:15. She was dressed in a designer suit, her hair professionally styled, carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost $1,000. Try not to embarrass the family today, okay? Important people will be here. I'll do my best, I said quietly, continuing to organize the reception desk. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. And maybe take an actual lunch break instead of eating at your desk? The executives from the Hoffman acquisition will be here and I don't want them seeing family members acting like you do. I looked up at her. What's wrong with how I act? Oh, Emma. She laughed, but it wasn't kind. You really don't see it, do you? You have no executive presence. No leadership qualities. You answer phones and eat turkey sandwiches at a reception desk. That's fine. Not everyone can be management material. But today especially I need you to just be invisible. Understood, I said simply. By 9:30, the building was filling with employees gathering for Victoria's presentation. I watched her greet people in the lobby, shaking hands, laughing at jokes, playing the role of future executive perfectly. Our parents arrived at 9:40, Mom in pearls and Dad in his best suit, both beaming with pride at Victoria. Where should we sit? Mom asked me at the desk as if I were an usher instead of her daughter. The presentation is in conference room A, I said, handing her a printed agenda. 3rd floor. Dad barely glanced at me. You'll be staying at the desk, I assume? Someone needs to answer phones. I have it covered, I assured him. Victoria's presentation started at 10 sharp. I could hear it from the lobby through the building's speaker system she'd insisted on using. She talked about brand awareness, market penetration, and her vision for the company's future. Her voice carried that confident executive tone she'd perfected over the years. Anderson Technologies needs bold leadership for the next generation, she announced. Someone who understands both our legacy and our future potential. Someone ready to make the tough decisions that will keep us competitive. I heard our father's voice boom. That's my girl. The presentation lasted 40 minutes. Victoria covered quarterly results, marketing initiatives, and strategic partnerships. It was actually quite good. She was talented at her job, I'd give her that. but she kept making subtle references to new leadership and upcoming changes that made it clear she expected to be promoted today. She had no idea those changes had nothing to do with her. At 10:50, people began filtering out of the conference room, heading to their departments or grabbing coffee. Victoria emerged with our parents, all three glowing with satisfaction. They approached my desk and I could see Victoria was riding high on the successful presentation. "That went well," she said, not quite looking at me. The executive seemed impressed. "It was a good presentation," I agreed. "Victoria's going places," Dad said proudly, putting his arm around her shoulders. "Real executive material. Takes after me." Mom nodded. "We're so proud, honey. The family name is in good hands." Victoria glanced at me and I saw something calculating in her eyes. "You know, Emma, you could probably move up from reception eventually. Maybe to executive assistant? If you worked really hard and took some night classes." "That's generous of you to think of her career," Mom said, patting Victoria's arm. I checked my watch. 10:54. The board meeting would convene in 6 minutes in the executive boardroom on the 22nd floor. The real meeting where the actual decisions got made. "I should mention," I said quietly, "I have a meeting at 11. Victoria laughed. "A meeting? Emma, receptionists don't have meetings." "This one does," I said, standing up from my desk. "What kind of meeting?" Dad asked, looking confused. "A board meeting," I said simply. The way Victoria's expression shifted from confusion to condescension was almost comical. "Emma, I think you're confused. The board meeting is for executives only. You probably heard someone mention it and—" "I'm not confused," I said, gathering my leather portfolio, the one that held 18 months of board minutes, strategic plans and documentation of my grandfather's succession wishes. "The quarterly board meeting convenes at 11 in the executive boardroom. I need to be there." "Sweetheart," Mom said gently as if talking to a child, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. The board meeting is for senior leadership. Maybe someone asked you to deliver something to the boardroom? You can do that and come right back to the desk." Victoria was less gentle. "Stop embarrassing yourself. You're a receptionist. You don't go to board meetings. You answer phones and direct visitors. That's your job." "Actually," I said calmly, "my job is significantly different than you think." "What are you talking about?" Dad demanded. "Victoria, what is she talking about?" Victoria's face was reddening. "She's delusional. Emma, I don't know what fantasy you've created in your head, but you need to stop. This is a professional environment. You can't just—" "I've attended every board meeting for the past 18 months, I said matter-of-factly. "Every single one." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. "That's impossible," Victoria finally said. "I would know. I'm director of marketing. I hear about these things. Directors aren't typically informed about board composition unless it directly affects their department," I explained. "The board operates at a different level. Listen to yourself." Victoria's voice was rising. "You sound ridiculous. You're a receptionist. You literally answer phones for a living. What would you even do at a board meeting?" "Usually, I listen to reports from various departments, review financial statements, discuss strategic initiatives, and vote on major company decisions," I said. "The typical board member responsibilities." Dad looked like he might have a stroke. "Board member? Emma, this has gone far enough. Whatever joke you think you're making." "It's not a joke," I said. I pulled out my security badge, the one I'd been using after hours for 18 months, and held it up. Instead of the basic green stripe of a standard employee, it had the gold stripe that designated executive board access. Victoria stared at it. That can't be real. Where did you get that?" "From security when I was granted board access," I said. 18 months ago." "That's impossible." Victoria snatched the badge from my hand, examining it closely. "This has to be fake. Did you make this? Is this some kind of sad attempt to—" "Ms. Anderson?" A voice interrupted us. James Mitchell, the company's chief operating officer, had appeared in the lobby. He was 62, silver-haired, and had been with Anderson Technologies for 27 years. "We're ready to convene. The other board members are waiting." Victoria whirled on him. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm so sorry. My sister has been making these bizarre claims about attending board meetings. I don't know what Claims. James looked genuinely confused. Ms. Emma Anderson has been on the board for 18 months. Surely you knew that. The lobby had gone very quiet. Several employees who'd been passing through had stopped, sensing drama. That's impossible, Victoria said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. She's a receptionist. She's the primary heir to the founder's estate and succession plan, James said, his tone suggesting this should be obvious. Per your grandfather's wishes, she's been training in every department while attending board meetings. Today we're announcing her appointment as chairman. I watched the words hit my family like physical blows. Chairman. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Chairman of the board, James confirmed. The position has been empty since your father passed. Ms. Emma Anderson will be assuming that role effective today. Victoria's face had gone from red to white. No, that's not. I'm the one with executive experience. I'm the director of marketing. I gave the presentation today about leadership which was excellent, James said kindly. Your marketing work is valued. But the chairmanship was designated in the founder's succession plan. He was quite specific about his wishes. Mom found her voice. But Emma never said anything. We had no idea she was even. At Ms. Emma Anderson's request, we maintained discretion, James said. She wanted to learn the company from the ground up before taking on the chairman role. Hence the reception position. It allowed her to observe how the company functions at every level. She's been playing receptionist? Dad said incredulously. For 18 months? I've been learning the business, I corrected quietly. Every department, every function, every employee level. Grandfather's plan was very specific about understanding the company from every angle before taking leadership. Victoria was shaking. You let us all believe you were just, and you were. I was preparing, I said simply. The board meeting, James said, checking his watch. We should begin. Miss Anderson. Wait, Victoria grabbed my arm. This can't be happening. I've worked for this company for 8 years. 8 years. I've built my career here. I've earned a promotion, a leadership position. You can't just sweep in after playing secretary and take. I'm not taking anything from you, I said gently. You're still director of marketing. That hasn't changed. But I should be VP at least. I should be on the executive track. How is this fair? Fairness isn't always about time served, I said. Grandfather made his decision based on what he thought was best for the company's future. I didn't ask for this role. He chose me. Because you manipulated him. Victoria's voice cracked. You were always his favorite. You used that too. Miss Victoria Anderson, James's voice cut through her accusation firm now. I'd be very careful about what you say next. Accusing the chairman of the board of manipulation is serious. And frankly unfounded. Your grandfather's succession plan was created with legal counsel and filed with the board years before his death. Emma was still in college when he made these arrangements. The security guard had moved closer, I noticed. So had several other employees watching the scene unfold. I don't understand, Mom said, looking between Victoria and me. Emma, why didn't you tell us? Because I asked her not to, James said. The board felt it was important for her to learn without the pressure of family expectations. We've been very impressed with her discretion and her dedication to understanding the business. The board meeting, I said again, checking my watch. I really do need to be there. Of course, James said. Shall we? I picked up my portfolio and moved toward the elevator. James fell into step beside me. Behind us, Victoria's voice rose. This isn't over. You can't just. Ms. Victoria Anderson, James said without turning around. I'd suggest you return to your department. We have a board meeting to conduct. The elevator doors closed on my family's shocked faces. That was uncomfortable, James said mildly as we rose toward the 22nd floor. Necessary though, I replied. Your grandfather would be proud, he said. You've handled this transition with remarkable professionalism. The executive boardroom was exactly as I'd seen it dozens of times before. A long mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The other board members were already seated. Margaret Chin, our CFO, David Okoye representing our primary investors, Patricia Hoffman, CEO of our recent acquisition, Robert Santos, our technology director, and 3 independent board members who'd served since my grandfather's time. "Good morning," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table, my grandfather's seat, the chairman's seat. "Good morning, Ms. Anderson," they chorused. "Before we begin the formal agenda," Margaret said, "I think we're all curious about how the announcement went downstairs." "About as expected," I said. "My family was surprised." "Surprised is putting it mildly," James said, sitting down. "Your sister was quite vocal." "Victoria will adjust," I said, though I wasn't entirely sure that was true. "Shall we begin?" The meeting covered quarterly financials, the Hoffman acquisition integration, budget approvals, and strategic planning for the next fiscal year. It was familiar territory after 18 months of observation and participation. But today was different. Today I wasn't just participating. I was leading. "The Hoffman integration is ahead of schedule," Patricia reported. "We're seeing synergies we didn't anticipate, particularly in the research and development divisions." "Excellent," I said, making notes. "David, have the investors expressed any concerns about the integration costs?" "Some initial questions," David said, "but the early results are reassuring them. The stock price has remained stable." We worked through the agenda methodically. Budget approvals for new initiatives. Personnel decisions for senior positions. Strategic partnerships requiring board approval. The meeting lasted 90 minutes, and by the end I felt the weight of what I'd taken on. "One final item," Margaret said. "The announcement to employees and shareholders. How would you like to handle that?" "Press release this afternoon," I said. "Company-wide email from me introducing myself as chairman. And I'd like to schedule individual meetings with department heads over the next week." "Including your sister?" James asked carefully. "Especially my sister," I said. "She's director of marketing. I need to work with her professionally regardless of family dynamics." The board members nodded approval. "Then I believe we're adjourned," I said. "Thank you all for your support during this transition." As the board members filed out, Margaret lingered. "Your grandfather would be incredibly proud," she said. "He knew exactly what he was doing when he chose you." "I hope so," I said. "This is more responsibility than I've ever had." "You've been preparing for 18 months, she reminded me. "And you've impressed everyone on this board with your judgment and dedication. Trust that." After she left, I stood alone in the boardroom looking out at the city. Somewhere in the building below, my family was processing what had just happened. My phone had been buzzing with texts, but I'd been ignoring it during the meeting. Now I looked at the messages. "Victoria, we need to talk. Now." "Mom, Emma, please explain what's happening. Your father is very upset." "Dad, call me immediately." "Victoria again, you manipulated grandfather." "I'm consulting with lawyers about the succession plan." I took a breath and called Victoria first. "How could you?" she answered immediately, her voice shaking with fury. "How could you let us all think you were nothing while you were planning this?" "I wasn't planning anything," I said calmly. "I was following grandfather's succession plan." "His succession plan that you obviously influenced. You were always his favorite. You manipulated an old man into—" "Victoria, stop," I said firmly. "Grandfather created that plan with legal counsel years before his death. I was in college. I had no influence over his decision." "Then why you?" Her voice cracked. "I'm the one who's worked here. I'm the one with experience. I'm the one who deserves." "This isn't about deserving," I interrupted. "It's about what grandfather thought was best for the company. The company I've dedicated 8 years to." "And you're still director of marketing," I said. "Your position hasn't changed. You're still valued. Your work is still important. But you're chairman." The word came out like an accusation. "You're in charge of everything. After playing receptionist and letting everyone treat you like you were nothing." "I was learning," I said. "Every interaction, every department, every function. That's what grandfather wanted. Someone who understood the company completely from every angle." "That's convenient," Victoria said bitterly. "And now you get to lord it over all of us." "Over me?" "I have no intention of lording anything over anyone," I said. "I need this company to succeed. That means working with our leadership team, including you. Your marketing expertise is valuable." "Don't patronize me," she snapped. You've been lying to us for 18 months. I wasn't lying. I was maintaining privacy while I prepared for this role. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. She was crying now, I could hear it. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I gave that presentation this morning about leadership and vision, and the whole time you were sitting downstairs knowing you'd already been chosen. Knowing you'd make me look like a fool. That wasn't my intention, I said quietly. Your presentation was good. Your work is solid. But not good enough to be chosen. Not good enough to matter. Victoria. I need to go, she said. Mom and Dad are waiting. We need to figure out what to do about this. There's nothing to do, I said. The succession plan is legal and final. The board has approved my appointment. This is happening. We'll see about that, she said and hung up. I sat down in the chairman's seat, feeling exhausted. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Emma, your father wants to speak with you, she said when I answered. He's very upset. Put him on, I said. Dad's voice was cold. I want to know how you manipulated your grandfather into this ridiculous succession plan. I didn't manipulate anyone, I said tiredly. Grandfather made his decision years ago with legal counsel. The board has all the documentation. You expect me to believe he chose you, a girl who answers phones, over Victoria who has actual executive experience? I have executive experience now, I said. 18 months on the board, working with every department, learning strategic decision-making. That was grandfather's plan. It's absurd, Dad said flatly. Victoria is the obvious choice. She's older, more experienced, more suited to leadership. You're going to destroy this company. I'm going to do my best to grow this company, I replied. Just as grandfather wanted. Your grandfather was senile at the end, Dad said, and I felt anger flash through me for the first time. He was sharp as ever when he created that succession plan, I said, my voice hardening. And if you want to challenge it legally, you're welcome to try. The board will defend it, and they have significantly more resources than you do. Grandfather made sure of that. Are you threatening us? Dad demanded. I'm explaining reality, I said. I didn't ask for this position. I didn't manipulate anyone. Grandfather chose me because he thought I was right for the company's future. I intend to honor that trust. If you can't accept that, then we'll have a difficult family relationship going forward. But the business decision is final. Dad was silent for a long moment. This is what you wanted all along, isn't it? To be above your sister. To prove you were better. No, I said honestly. What I wanted was to make grandfather proud and help his company thrive. The title is secondary to that goal. I don't believe you, he said. Victoria is devastated. Your mother is confused. And you're sitting in your grandfather's chair acting like you've earned the right to be there. I spent 18 months earning that right, I said. Learning, observing, preparing. I've put in the work. By lying to your family. By maintaining privacy while I learned. That's different. Not to us, Dad said, echoing Victoria's words. You made fools of us. That was never my intention. But it's the result, he said coldly. Don't expect us at family dinners for a while. Victoria needs time to process this betrayal. Betrayal. I repeated. Dad, I followed grandfather's wishes. How is that betrayal? You let us believe you were nothing, he said. That's the betrayal. The lies. The deception. The year and a half of pretending to be something you weren't. I was exactly what I appeared to be, I said. A receptionist who was also training for leadership. Both were true. We're done talking, Dad said. Your mother and I need to help Victoria through this. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in the empty boardroom, feeling the weight of what had just happened. I'd known my family would be upset. I'd prepared for that. But hearing the anger and hurt in their voices was harder than I'd expected. My phone buzzed with an email notification. The company-wide announcement had gone out. Subject: Leadership Transition Announcement. Dear Anderson Technologies team, it is my honor to announce that Emma Anderson has been appointed chairman of the board of directors, effective immediately. This appointment fulfills the succession plan established by our founder, Jonathan Anderson, and represents the next generation of leadership for our company. Ms. Anderson has been preparing for this role over the past 18 months through comprehensive training across all departments and active participation in board governance. Her deep understanding of our operations, strategic vision, and commitment to our founding principles make her the ideal choice to lead Anderson Technologies into our next chapter. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Anderson on this appointment. Sincerely, James Mitchell, Chief Operating Officer. My phone immediately started buzzing with messages from colleagues I'd worked with over the past 18 months. Congratulations. Surprise. Questions. Support. But nothing from my family. I spent the afternoon in individual meetings with department heads, formally introducing myself in my new role. Most were supportive, though I could see shock in many faces. The receptionist they'd been greeting for 18 months was now the chairman of the board. I had no idea. The director of operations told me. You seem so normal. I am normal, I said. This is just a different job title. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. By 5 o'clock I was exhausted. I returned to my office, the chairman's office, though I still couldn't quite process that, and found Victoria waiting in the hallway outside. We need to talk, she said. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. Come in, I said, unlocking the door. The office was exactly as grandfather had left it. I hadn't changed anything yet. His photos were still on the walls, his books on the shelves, his desk exactly as he'd arranged it. Victoria looked around and I saw something break in her expression. He really wanted this for you, she said quietly. Didn't he? Yes, I said simply. Why? She turned to face me. I need to understand why. What made him choose you over me? I sat down, gesturing for her to do the same. He never told me directly. But from what the board has shared, he thought I had the temperament for long-term strategic thinking. The patience to build something lasting rather than quick wins. The ability to see the company as a whole rather than just one department. And I don't have those qualities? Victoria's voice was bitter. You have different strengths, I said carefully. Your marketing work is brilliant. You're dynamic, creative, excellent at execution. But grandfather wanted someone who would preserve the company's culture while growing it. Someone who would prioritize long-term stability over short-term gains. So I'm too ambitious, she said. Too focused on results? You're focused on the right things for a marketing director, I said. But chairman requires a different focus. It's not better or worse. It's different. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I hate this, she finally said. I hate that you were chosen. I hate that I didn't see it coming. I hate that everyone at this company now knows I thought I was going to be promoted and instead my little sister became my boss. I'm not your boss, I said. The chairman doesn't manage department directors. You report to the COO, same as before. But you're in charge of everything, she said. Of the whole company. Of the board that makes all the real decisions. Don't pretend this doesn't change everything. It does change things, I admitted. But it doesn't have to change us. We're still sisters. Are we? She looked at me directly. Because right now I don't know who you are. The sister I thought I knew wouldn't have deceived us for 18 months. Wouldn't have let us treat her like she was nothing while secretly being groomed for the top position. I don't know this person. I'm the same person I've always been, I said quietly. I just had information you didn't. That's not a small thing, Emma. That's everything. She stood up. I need time. We all need time to process this. Don't expect things to be normal at family gatherings. I understand, I said. She walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, your presentation to the department heads this afternoon was professional. Grandfather would have been proud. Then she was gone. I sat alone in grandfather's office, my office now, and felt the full weight of what I'd taken on. The company, yes. But also the family consequences. The broken trust. The resentment that would take years to heal if it healed at all. My phone buzzed. Margaret Chin, the CFO. First day as chairman. How are you holding up? I typed back, still standing. Barely. It gets easier. Give it time. And give your family time too. This is a shock to their system. I know. Thank you. Tomorrow we tackle the Q4 strategic initiatives. Get some rest tonight. I looked around the office one more time, then locked up and headed for the elevator. The building was mostly empty now, just a few late workers and the night security team. When I reached the lobby, the evening receptionist was at my old desk. "Good night, Ms. Anderson," she said, and I heard the new formality in her tone. "Good night, Sarah," I replied. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for a long moment before starting the engine. My phone showed 17 missed calls from various family members, none of which I had the energy to return tonight. Grandfather's voice echoed in my memory from our last conversation before he died. "Leadership is lonely, Emma. Especially at the top. You'll make decisions that upset people you love. But if you're doing what's right for the company, for the employees who depend on it, that loneliness is worth it." I hadn't fully understood what he meant then. I did now. I started the car and drove home, leaving Anderson Technologies behind. Tomorrow I'd return as chairman, ready to lead the company into its next chapter. But tonight I was just Emma Anderson, 29 years old, who just lost her family's trust while gaining the responsibility for thousands of employees' livelihoods. Grandfather had been right about one thing. Leadership was lonely. But as I thought about the board meeting, the strategic plans we'd discussed, the company's future we'd mapped out, I knew I'd made the right choice. To accept his succession plan. To spend 18 months preparing in secret. To take on this responsibility even knowing the family cost. The company would thrive. Under my leadership, with the board's support, and with talented people like Victoria contributing their expertise, Anderson Technologies would grow exactly as grandfather had envisioned. Even if my family never quite forgave me for how it happened. That was the price of leadership. And tonight, driving through the city my grandfather had built his empire in, I accepted that price. The board meeting would come to order tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. And I would be ready.